All right, welcome to the Sharp Mind Show, episode 46. I'm Nate, your host, the Fit Future MD. Make sure you shop at instrasale.com and pick you up a cool inspirational t-shirt today. Like the video, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right, so first things first, we're going to talk about Diane Keaton. All right, so Diane Keaton's official cause of death has been released by her family, and the official cause of death is pneumonia. Right, so not going to talk a lot about Diane Keaton specifically, but I am going to talk about, or basically give a warning um, for medication out there that we all use, and it's called Dayquil. All right, so every year we all get colds and we all, hop up on Dayquil. But what they've done to the Dayquil is they added this medication called guanefacin or uh, Mucinex to the Dayquil. All right, and so Mucinex is only designed to be used 1 to 3 days. Right, if you use it for more than 3 days, it has a side effect called pneumonia, right? Because if you increase your mucus production, that mucus has to go somewhere. Your body can't clear it as fast as you're producing it, right? So you actually end up with pneumonia because of the guanefacin. And, you know, I know people personally that ended up with pneumonia from regular common colds, because they used Dayquil for 14 days, and ended up with pneumonia. So, not saying that this is what happened to Diane Keaton, but I saw this cause of death and um, definitely was like, okay, well, let's talk about this because that's the side effect of Mucinex, and you have to go turn the bottle around and check the label and make sure that the guanefacin is not in there. And if it is in there, don't use it for more than 2 days. Right. So keep that in mind. Just a small warning out there for my, this is called the Smart Minds podcast, right? So, or Sharp Minds podcast. I couldn't call it smart. Somebody already had that one. So the Sharp Minds podcast, Sharp Mind Show, the Sharp Mind Show. And so obviously we talk about things like warnings like this where, you know, basically, something that should be common sense, right? Like to the drug makers, like, hey, don't put something that causes pneumonia in something that people are going to take for 7 to 14 days if it causes pneumonia after 2 days. But that's what they did. And, I noticed it during COVID and I was like, what is going on? And I was like, well, this is why everybody's getting pneumonia right here. Like, but anyway, just wanted to call and throw that not call. I just wanted to say that obviously rest in peace to Diane Keaton. Definitely watched a few of her movies and you know, like I said, I don't know what caused her pneumonia, but they didn't release that, but her official cause of death is pneumonia. All right, so my feed on TikTok, and basically this is the whole um basically the whole feed of TikTok right now is how expensive everything is, um, how people can't afford to live, that kind of thing. Well, if you go and look at what you're making, say I'm a life coach, so I'm gonna go through some scenarios here. But if you look at what you make, and then you look at, say you're gonna be a renter, you look at what you make and you realize that you are gonna be spending 60% of your income on an apartment, it's time to start looking for alternative housing situations, right? And so, especially if you're young, you don't have kids, you're not married, you know, that type of thing. There are other alternative housing options other than apartments, right? So, um, obviously, the obvious ones are trailers, and the one I'm specifically going to talk about right now are RVs, right? So, you can get a pretty decent RV, for under 20,000 bucks, right? Even if you, especially if you get one used. Um, and so if, you're talking about, so in my area, you're talking about paying $1,500 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. When you could go live in an RV park for 500 bucks a month for the spot, and probably 200 bucks a month or 300 bucks a month to pay for the RV, right? So, you go from it's half the price, you know. Um, so obviously this makes it where it is an alternative housing option, right? Like I say, the price of housing has gone through the roof, right? And this has happened in the past. And usually when they decrease interest rates, because we all think, oh, it's the interest rate keeping us from being able to buy housing. Well, when they decrease the interest rates, then the housing goes through the roof. It goes up more, right? So basically the price of housing is basically going to stay the same. And if it doesn't, maybe it crashes out or whatever happens. But if it crashes out, that means everybody lost their job, right? So we're back to a depression, right? So the bubble burst. But like I say, if these apartments are going to be 1,500 bucks a month for a 1-bedroom, $3,000 a month for 2 bedrooms, and or 2,200 for two, and 3,000 plus for a 3-bedroom, then you're going to be looking for alternative housing options. Especially if your bring home pays $3,000 a month. And if your bring home pays $3,000 a month, that means you make almost 60 grand a year, right? So that's why you would be looking into alternative housing options. Now, I will say that my wife's father um, parks his boat at an RV park, and we went down there and had spent some time out there. And let me tell you, RV parks are not like the RV parks of old, where these RV parks now are nice, beautiful, got beautiful pools, beautiful facilities. It's not like the RV parks of old, so, or the ones you think about, from back in the day. So keep that in mind. You can get a lot more for your buck, especially like if you're not, having to house children and that kind of thing. Like, um, obviously, the other thing you can do is have roommates, but, you know, you think that like I say, we're in a cycle of high inflation, right? So people think that inflation never goes away. The inflation will go away, right? One way or the other. Either our salaries come up to meet the inflation, or the bubble bursts and we get deflation, a deflationary event, right? So, but don't go broke paying for somewhere that you just come home and shower at anyway, right? Because, most people are going to have two jobs anyway. Um, and so you might as well, pay cheaper for what you're living at, right? So let me know what you think about living in RVs at an RV park. Obviously, let me know what you think about trailers. Um, but are they a good option right now, considering the price of renting and the price of housing? Right. This episode is brought to you by London and the Googly Goo. London and the Googly Goo is my wife's children's book. So if you have nieces, nephews, or children of your own, be sure to check out London and the Googly Goo. by Meredith Dillon on Amazon, or click the link in the description below. All right. So, like I say, my feed on TikTok is all about, it's just about how high expensive everything is. And the only way to stop inflation is to have everybody get laid off, right? So you go from a 4% unemployment to a 6.5, 7% unemployment, and all of a sudden your inflation goes away, right? But the question then becomes, if you lost your income tomorrow, what would your plan be? Would you just panic? Because they say most people are living paycheck to paycheck. So we learned during the pandemic that a 6-month emergency fund is not big enough, right? A lot of people were laid off for over 18 months. And especially if you're like, so if you're somebody that made $150,000 or more, it's very difficult to get those $150,000 or more jobs, right? Trust me, I can't get one. So, but basically this goes to show, like, if you don't have an emergency fund and you're still employed, it's time to start making one, right? Because you don't know, when you're actually going to be laid off. Like, employers can lay you off for any reason at all. They say you're just a number to them. So there's two things that this really say. If you realize in your head that you're just a number to your employer, there's two things you have to realize. Number one, you have to become financially free, right? Period. There's no other way around it. Let's say if you're using the only skill you have to do the job that you have, you have to do the financial freedom method to get there, to get to financial freedom, right? Obviously, if you're a person that's an entrepreneur, you have a product that you can sell. You just need to advertise for it and become financially free that way. Obviously, you can do that, right? But specifically, you have to invest and you have to create an emergency fund, right? Because if you lose your income tomorrow, you'll lose everything if you don't have this, right? And you work too hard to just lose everything to give it back to the bank, right? Like, there's also, like, so if you're a 2 household income, you can decrease your all the way down to the one income and use the other income to pay your house off, to have your emergency fund, to invest faster, that kind of stuff, right? And say we've talked about the quote, about being comfortable, right? So if you're comfortable, you may be doing the wrong thing, right? Like, but if you realize that in your mind, that little switch in your mind and say, oh, I'll always have a job, I'll always work, you don't know if you're going to be the next one in the sweep, right? So keep that in mind. Work hard, get yourself out of the rat race where you don't have to worry about this kind of stuff, right? And to say this is the reason I started going for financial freedom, right? I realized, so my first official full-time job, coming out of med school with $300,000 in debt, they required you to pass a test, right? And I saw the reason I had a job is because 3 people before me could not pass that test, right? So obviously I took that test very seriously, because other people hadn't passed, but it showed me then, before the pandemic, that you are expendable, right, to your employer. So don't be expendable to yourself as well. Create your emergency fund, start investing. If you need help to start this kind of stuff up, hit me up in the DM for life coaching, and I'll help you get set up. with your emergency fund, with investing, so that you can become financially free and not be dependent on your employer. Doesn't mean you stop working. You know, if you like your job, you enjoy your job, you can stop working. But, you know, it's definitely something that, you know, I can help you with. Right. So keep that in mind. All right. And the last thing of the day is the quote of the day. And it goes, scars are not the reminder of what hurt you. They're proof that you refuse to stay broken. Scars are not the reminders of what hurt you. They're proof that you refuse to stay broken. Right. So, you know, you can't really go through life unscathed and not scarred. Right. So, you know, me and my daughter are playing in the backyard yesterday. And of course, she's 16 months old and she falls down and scrapes her knee, you know, and, that spot is going to heal, right? But, she's not even going to remember that that even happened, right? But, that scar, there might be a scar there. And she'd be like, oh, I don't, it's just going to be a reminder that she overcame falling down, right? And got herself back up. And so is that scar for you. So whatever scar is running deep in you right now, most psychologists are going to be like, oh, concentrate on it, talk about it every day, blah, blah, blah. You can say, this happened to me and I overcame it, right? And I got better because of it. I didn't stay broken, right? That's where affirmations come in, right? So you add those to your affirmations about this specific event that you found out in therapy or whatever way you realize that this happened to you as a kid or whatever, you know, but you add that part to your affirmations and you can say, well, then I'm not concentrating on what happened in the past. I'm concentrating that I overcame this that happened in the past. Right. So it's different. It's a different mindset. It changes your mindset. If you don't have affirmations, I give out my affirmations away for free. So check the link in the description or in the bio and, pick those up for free. And then you can add your stuff in that, if you have something that scarred you in your past, you can add that you overcame those and are better because of it, right? I'm Nate, and I'm a life coach. Hit me up for life coaching if you're interested. Shop at instacell.com. Pick you up a cool inspirational t-shirt today. Grab my wife's book, London and the Googly Goo. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and let me know what you thought about today's episode. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.